So I ran up to this strange man in the woods and said, "Mister, what are you doing?" He says, I'm fishing. I go, "Oh, well, I'm fishing too, but I don't know what you're doing." He goes, "Oh, I'm fly fishing." And he handed me the rod. He goes, try it.
The hardest part guiding sometimes can be having people who can't cast, right? And you want to have a basic way, an easy way to teach them the basics so they can be productive.
You know, my grandfather, Ed Grant, used to say, in order to tell a good story, you take an absolute fact, even if it's a little one, and keep building on it till it's a good story. But we don't have to because our experiences have been real.
Welcome to the Flyline Podcast, where we enjoy the interesting stories behind the legendary guides and luminaries connected to Maine fishing. I'm Michael Jones. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, Captain Eric Wallace. Eric Wallace's story begins in Michigan, where childhood filled with steelhead, trout, smallmouth, and carp helped shape a lifelong connection to the water. From there, his path carried him through windsurfing, life on the road out of a converted van, and work in Oregon, Colorado, and the Florida Keys that eventually led him into professional guiding. In this episode, Eric shows how those early adventures led to two-handed steelhead fishing, earning his captain's license, and learning the tarpon and permit waters of the Florida Keys. He talks about what happened next, a coin flip that brought him to Maine, and how he began applying shallow water flats techniques to the striped bass fishery in Casco Bay. We talk about the patterns and tactics that define his approach. Eric also reflects on the realities of running a busy guide business and the gear and boats that have shaped his career and the small innovations that help him stay effective on the water. In this conversation, Eric shares what it means to build a life around fishing, travel, family, and his constant quest to learn new water. It comes with tremendous respect to introduce the Flyline Podcast audience to this very special guest. Captain Eric Wallace, welcome to the Flyline Podcast.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to a little talk today. We are in, I guess you'd call it the fish apartment in Saltwater.
And this is where you work out of in the summertime.
Yeah. Most of the time I'm at my girlfriend's house, and come summer, it's here.
Yeah. And what do they call a fishing guide without a girlfriend?
Homeless.
That's right. But in this case, you're not.
In this case, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, Eric, we're going to talk a lot about what you do here in Maine because you've made a big footprint in your career, and I feel like everybody knows who you are as a result, in a good way. But before that, I want to back up for the audience because you have an interesting background that you didn't grow up in Maine.
No, I didn't. I was born just outside of Ann Arbor, Michigan. My dad was a fireman, and then my mother passed away when I was 3 years old. And I had a first stepmom, and that lasted until about second grade. And so I was basically raised second grade till ninth grade by my sisters. And dad being a fireman, they worked overnights and long weird shifts. And it was one of those perfect Gen X scenarios where a lot of freedom, but consequences if you didn't get your chores done type of lifestyle. Yeah. But that freedom for me was fishing. I had a boat, it was right on the water. A little lake in Michigan. And then from there, we moved up to finish high school in northern Michigan outside Traverse City. And that's the area where Kelly Gallup is from.
Yeah.
Jim Harrison, his daughter was in the school. Mm-hmm. The writer and, the star of Tarpon, the movie Tarpon.
Right, which I saw recently. So, Eric, Jim Harrison was a kind of a beatnik writer in the early 70s, late 60s, and certainly one of the earlier pioneers of tarpon fishing.
For sure.
Which we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, that crew is something else. And the more you learn about what they're doing, it's really cool.
Everyone should watch the film Tarpon.
Yes, absolutely, especially the new version.
But I interrupted you. You were telling me about growing up. Now, when you moved to Traverse City, what was it like then?
It was up and coming. The park had just gotten formed, the Sleeping Bear Dune National Park, or National Seashore, Lakeshore.
Did you say Sleeping Bear?
Sleeping Bear Dunes. And so you had a ton of public lands being kind of bought out and turned into a park. And you had, you got your Michigan rivers, you got really cool carp fisheries for sight fishing. You got clear water. It is a great place. It was really fun. I enjoyed it. You had kind of a little bit of movement going on in the fishing world. too. Kelly Gallup had his shop there before he went out to slide in Montana. You had a couple of my buddies. We were all in the small school. We're talking a school of you graduating with 18 kids. And one of them started Spinnerfall in Utah, guiding service. The other one, Jeremy Fisher, he won the Gold Cup 4 years ago in Almirada. He's still guiding. He's one of the top.
So is there something in the water there that
I don't know, but there's a bunch of kids that love to fish.
you being one of them.
Yeah, me being one of them.
So what were you fishing for there? I know you say carp as a side gig, but I mean, what was the main?
We had, you had the Great Lakes steelhead.
Yeah.
You had great trout fishing. You had big smallies. And then you had the hex hatches and the brown trout and the browns that would come out of the lake and come up for the hex hatches. So you had some pretty cool stuff going on. But I had kind of a little different interest. As time went on, I left there pretty quickly after high school and went to Oregon first and then to Colorado.
What brought you to Oregon?
Windsurfing.
Oh, cool. I used to windsurf. Yeah.
So my senior year of high school, I bought a little van, a big van, I should say, a Dodge 78 Dodge Sportsman. And I brought it to shop class and built it out. I had a bed and a little rack. The rack had place for 2 windsurf boards and 3 fly rods. And in 1988, I took that thing across the country and windsurfed and steelhead fish.
1988.
1988.
We are the same age. I'm 56.
I'm 56.
When were you born?
December 69.
Of what day?
The 26th.
I'm 14 days older than you. I was born on the 6th.
Well,
I think I just did the math right. Did you say the 22nd?
26th, day after Christmas.
Oh, you got robbed.
Yeah.
Oh, you got robbed.
Yeah.
So, back to windsurfing. Do you know Rachel Finn?
I did.
Yeah, she was a big time windsurfer.
Yeah, we talked about that.
And I didn't know she was a windsurfer until I heard her podcast with Andy Mill.
Yeah.
And she was talking about what brought her up to the Adirondacks was windsurfing.
Yeah.
And no, my mom brought my brother and I to windsurfing lessons. My brother would have nothing to do with it, but I got right into it.
Yeah.
And loved it.
Yes.
And it's obviously that world has changed a lot. You don't see them much anymore, if at all. Everyone's into kiteboarding. But you're now out in Oregon.
Yeah.
You've brought your sportsman van out there.
Yeah.
And you're doing some windsurfing and some fly fishing. Did you meet your wife out there?
No, I'm pretty young at this point.
At this time, you're 18.
Yeah, this time I'm 18. I kind of bounced back to Michigan, went to college, went back out to Oregon, and found a job as an owl hooter. Which you're gonna go, what?
I gotta hear that. Yeah.
So,
what's an owl hooter?
Owl hooter was it was right when the Endangered Species Act was coming out, and the northern spotted owl had become the little symbol, really.
Right.
And what it was the timber bids were being bought back. So they needed a map where these owls were. So I saw this ad, free housing, a stipend for food. And I'm like, I can fish and windsurf and have a house now. And so I did it. And I was a owl hooter for a summer. And while I was doing that, I met a ranger. And I drive with him, and I was like, got really interested in that.
Yeah.
So I came back to the Midwest and went to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Law Enforcement School.
Nice.
And kind of went that route.
Yeah.
Well, when I got through that, you had a choice. You had to try to apply to different places. And I had in my head, I wanted to windsurf. I want to be by Oregon. Well, I got offered a couple of different things. One was the Everglades, which I, in hindsight, wish I would have done. The other one was the White River National Forest in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And I took that job.
Yeah.
Well, Aspen Ranger District. So it was that stepped me into becoming a guide on the frying pan of the Roaring Fork, is access to that water, living in a government bunkhouse in Aspen. And then eventually, river runs through it. It's just bounced out.
Mm-hmm.
And
boom.
You walk into a fly shop and go, hey, what are you doing? You're in here a few times a week buying stuff. You want a guide? And it was just like, well, looking at my government paycheck and looking at what they're offering to pay me a half day to guide. And I'm like, I'm guiding.
It's the same story with me, Eric.
So
I actually was accepted at Robert Wood Johnson Medical School to become a physician assistant. And I deferred my acceptance the year after Robert Redford produced A River Runs Through It. And the phone rang off the hook. Bob and I had started the fly shop in Farmington, and it was okay. But once that film came out,
It was nuts.
it was nuts. And, we had so Frying Pan, back to you, the Frying Pan River. I've never fished it. I'm picturing it as a wading river.
Oh, it's fully wading. It's a tailwater.
It's not a place you take a drift boat.
No,
Right.
drift boat would be on the Roaring Fork into the Colorado. And so you did your walkways on the pan, and the lower part of the Roaring Fork, which is basically Basalt, Elgibel, Carbondale, down through Glenwood Springs, and that's where it flows into the Colorado. Those would be your drift areas, and up everything else we walk away.
What was your first drift boat?
Hide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine too.
Yeah. I think I went through 3 or 4 hides over my life.
During that time when they were making them, they were almost disposable.
Well, yeah, they had a great trade-in program for you. And then I went to aluminum hide when I moved to Oregon, just because I wanted a little bit more weight because of the wind. And that was, that boat lasted pretty good.
Yeah. So you went from Aspen to Oregon.
Yeah.
And what were you doing when you went to Oregon at that point?
So when I went to Oregon to now, it's basically not so much. I wanted to be in Oregon so I could windsurf on my days off, but I had went with intentions to buy the Deschutes river permit from Travis Duddles that owns the Gorge Fly Shop. I ended up working for Travis and just doing trips.
Sure.
And from there, I started working for Randall Kaufman Streamborn, and doing trips on the Mackenzie, the Deschutes, and then around Portland itself, the Sandy, the Clackamas, and then some of the Salmonberry for walkway trips for winter steelhead, and the Kelchis, and just really loving Oregon.
Yeah.
And finding kind of my way there worked pretty good. I was able to.
Were your clients, Eric, I don't mean to interrupt you, but were your clients, I think it's always a mixture. I could picture in my head of steelhead guys being like back rowing with plugs, and then you had fly fishing.
Yeah. I would say their background certainly was that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had the guys really getting into the two-hand. And that's where that kind of morphed into. When I got really going there was really when I really got into the two-handed rods.
Cool.
And that exposed me to enough stuff that allowed me to get on some pro staffs with fly rods and start moving forward that way.
Yeah.
And it also kept you busy, not only just fishing trips, but people want to learn to cast. They want to learn just how to use a two-handed rod.
Do you teach spay?
I did 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't even have a spay rod at this point.
You don't. Yeah. It's funny. It really could use Atlantic salmon guys use them. People that fish in Europe use them. Definitely people out west use them.
Yeah.
Because it's an essential tool.
Yeah.
I've never found myself in a position in New England or especially in Maine where I was like, boy, I just don't have the right rod. I need a two-handed rod to do what I'm doing here.
Yeah. Stacking men's.
Yeah.
And just setting up for that swing through a pocket. And they're a useful tool in those big waters.
Yeah.
But for here, no, I couldn't match you.
I feel like they're essential out there.
I think if you're going to be swinging for steelhead, you need to have it too. You got to get that skill down.
And just for the novice listener, Eric, explain what swinging means with a two-handed rod. What's that technical approach?
Well, the technical approach would be basically, stacking your bends to bring the fly through a seam or through a hole in a sense, in a most simple terms, to bring that fly in there at a right angle at the right speed.
Got it.
So it's line control. It's line control to manage the fly right where you want it.
So your fly line is above your fly. It's not necessarily at a 45-degree angle to your fly.
Exactly.
And you can control the speed of it traveling from the other bank back toward you.
Yeah, versus it just going ripping through there too quick.
Yeah. You want to give them a really long look at it. The flies you use out there are really purples and pinks and stuff that I just don't see. I mean, what is it about that works for steelhead?
Leech.
Is that it?
Yeah. And quite honestly, like the black leech, egg-sucking leech pattern, caught more fish than anything. But a guy told me one time, I think it was Brian Silvey. He's a very good guy. He's still going hard out there. I asked him one time, I was like, what is this winter's hope? And it's just this thin little bright orange and purple. And pink. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what is this? He goes, look at the sky. It's 33 degrees and drizzling on us. And you look at that and it makes you feel better. And I'm like, okay.
That's a great story.
I was like, that works. We'll run with that right now. But I call most of the fish on dark flies, black and purple.
Right.
Yeah.
Hard profile.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So there you are. What was the next chapter?
Next chapter was, so from there, I would actually go back to Colorado a bit for the green drake hatches and in July into August. I had a lot of repeat customers. I was building up customer list. My dad had been moved himself into Islamorada.
Your dad had.
Yeah. So I was starting to get down there, kind of sniff around down there.
Yeah.
And learn Poland. This is probably 96, 97. Started playing around down there a little bit, and it's just never left my head.
No.
Like it was something I had to do.
Right.
And I knew that where I was getting at in guiding, as far as staying busy and having these customers, when I learned something different, I could get some business.
Right.
I felt comfortable enough at that point. So then it was obtaining the captain's license and doing all that stuff, which was a little different than just taking a class like it is now. It was, you had to go study and test at the Coast Guard. And it was, a little different it was the real deal.
It is the real deal. Now, just for reference, Islamorada is just above Big Pine Key.
Yeah.
I've been there a few times. We used to fish basically just north of what used to be the Worldwide Sportsman. I think it's owned by Bass Pro Shop now.
It is, yeah.
That place has really just grown up, that whole area.
Yeah.
But, I enjoyed fishing the Keys at the time. A lot of people around then. I'm sure it's even worse now from what I've heard.
Yeah.
In certain times in certain places. But being a guide, you have your little secret hidey holes that you can go to.
Yeah. Guiding in Keys is a unique experience in itself.
Yeah.
I would say there was a time period there. My daughters were just born in 2005. My dad was still in Islamorada, but they just went through one of the hurricanes. And I can't remember the exact year that was. And he was getting ready to leave there. And I had a housing opportunity in the lower Keys down by Sugarloaf Key.
Mm-hmm.
And so I fell in love with the place. I mean, I really did. The backcountry of Lower Keys is a special place. And it's busy. And it is there's quality guides around every corner. But you could still find pockets of privacy and fish.
I think it's a lifestyle too, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Those guys are good. They're good down there.
Yeah.
It's good guides.
Fun way to spend the day as a guide.
It is. It's hard. It's hard work down there.
Hard, not just from being able to find the fish, but the fish I think are generally more spooky than if you went to a remote, in the Bahamas or whatnot, where you see a school of 150 to 450 bonefish that are only 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds go by you. You're gonna hook one of them. Down there, it's singles and maybe doubles, and they are spooky, right?
Oh, yeah.
Again, we're talking bonefish, but what were you doing then when you were down there, Eric? Again, 2006, Islamorada, Big Pine Key, Sugarloaf Key. What were you fishing for at that point?
Well, of course, the focus was everyone wants a tarpon. Permit became my passion. And the bonefish were kind of off, and now they're back in pretty good numbers.
Okay.
And the permit fishing has been up and down, but it's pretty good right now. So it was tarpon brought people, and people booked for tarpon, but it was like, hey, we can go out back here and avoid the out front lineup of boats on every point looking for tarpon streams to swim by and go look for something else. And that's what I really liked. I like to move around and look for fish and pull and not stake out. And it ended up finding all of a sudden you're finding smaller permit stuff in May, and not just that March and back to June. You got permit, and you got April, late April, and all of May is just tarpon. It became, there was a little bit of diversity down there.
Yeah.
And I'd say if there's a place that you could fish for large permit year round, be the Lower Keys.
Okay.
And it's truly.
I think of Belize and Costa Rica as being destinations, but I think we forget about the places that exist right here.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's there's more permit fishing than you think. It's right here.
Yeah. Eric, I didn't want to interrupt, but you said your dad moved to Isla Morada. Was your dad a fly fisherman?
My dad was, he played around with it. He liked the fish, but he wasn't really serious.
Let me reframe my question. What brings a firefighter from Michigan to Isla Morada down in the Keys of Florida?
Weather.
Oh yeah, he was retiring. Is that what was going on?
Yeah, he retired. Yeah, he retired really young. He retired at 52.
Oh,
and he played around in Colorado and skied a little bit with he had a wife that's 10 years younger.
yeah.
And they just went to Amarada and did their thing for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
And they had fun. And
So you got all this going on, Oregon, Colorado, Florida. Why the hell would you move to Maine?
so from my time in Colorado, my now ex-wife, she went out to Oregon with me for a while. And she was from Maine, and she wanted to write a book and come back here to work on that. And I really was kind of like, no, I'm getting ready to go into my guide season here, And so we flipped a coin, and I dragged my drift boat from basically Portland, Oregon, Portland, Maine.
You lost the coin toss.
Yeah. I mean, at the time I drove out of often this I-84 along the Columbia Gorge, and I was just like tears in my eyes. Like, how can I leave this place this time going into summer? I was quite bummed.
Had you ever been to Maine?
I'd been to Maine as a kid for a ski race.
Yeah.
But it was a big change. It was a real big change. But I loved it.
I mean,
I liked it.
Yeah.
I got here and I literally talked to my dad. I was like, I had my drift boat with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd take it around here. I just put it up for sale.
Yeah.
Some guy bought it. And, it was easy. It was, I think it was probably you that started the craze of drift boats around here. And when my hide showed up and I put a for sale sign on it, I got more than I paid for it.
Right. Talk about that. Why are drift boats such a hot commodity here compared to the West? I know the answer, but I'm just, have you figured it out?
Well, I would say just availability.
Yeah. So they make them out West, right?
Yeah.
And we pay thousands of dollars to get them here.
Yeah.
And so if you can find one used that works for you, you're going to save a lot on shipping.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if you've checked the price of a new drift boat these days, but they're starting between $16,000 to $24,000. And I bet your first hide that you bought, you paid $4,000 for it with a trailer.
38.
Yeah. That's what I paid for mine. Exactly. So, right?
Yeah.
And, I see used ones now that are 15 years old and they want $9,000, $8,000, $6,000 for them. And it's like, really?
That's crazy.
It is. And of course, COVID caused a lot of that, Eric. I think there was people who wanted to get out and they wanted to do stuff and they didn't want to be around people, and fly fishing was a natural fit. And then everyone who wants to put their hand at fly fishing in freshwater wants to put their hand on a pair of oars.
Yeah.
But they soon find out something that you and I have always known, and that is he who rows does not cast and fish.
Same with a flat skiff.
So you're better. Yeah. So you're better off hiring a guide.
Yeah.
Because for $8,000, you can go on a lot of guided trips.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We digress there, but so you sold your drift boat.
And met up with my dad, grabbed this skiff and brought it here.
Yeah.
And I just started pulling around right away and dug it.
Was it? I think you were one of the first guys to really start pulling the flats in Maine. If you weren't the first guy, I can't think of who else. I know, like Dave Pesci is doing it now, but I don't think he was doing it when you were doing it.
There's guys that had pulling platforms, certainly. Dave being one, and Tim Rafford, John Ford. Those guys are all already established when I got here.
Yeah.
I think what maybe I did is I took what I was learning in Florida and went a little shallower, I guess would be the way to say it.
Yeah, because those guys had maritime skiffs.
Yeah.
You had a proper flat.
Yeah, I've always had them skinny water skiff. And then I also wasn't afraid of sun. I'd going out at 11 o'clock on an incoming tide.
Right.
Then, a lot of striper guys are like, what are you doing? Yeah, I said, well, so that was kind of trial and error on that, kind of learned it with customers. But I had I was lucky because now I'm 10 years into guiding and I have a repeat customers. And a lot of those customers were actually based in the East
Right.
that were going out West to fish.
Right.
And all of a sudden now I'm here.
Right.
And it didn't take long to be able to get those guys up here to fish with me.
Easier proximity.
Yeah, much easier. I was really amazed at how many New York and Boston folks I had
Yeah.
that had been fishing out West over the years. And as you know, I mean, you started guiding at an age when we didn't have any of this. We had, we didn't have cell phones.
No.
You had an answering machine. You had a couple hats from different fly shops, and you'd hope which one of them would call you and leave a message that you have a trip that day, and you grab that hat from their shop, and off you go for the next day. Hope you get a repeat, and that's how you just went through it. And you get here, and all of a sudden, build a website, and you can kind of market yourself, and it just kind of kept growing.
Yeah, but you did a great job with it. I remembered you had one of the sexiest websites back when it was hard to have a sexy website, because you had Barry and Kathy back come and do the photographs for you. And for the audience, tell us who Barry and Kathy back are or were.
Yeah, they were a couple that were Sage, I believe, were their Sage and Tibor. I want to say Rio. They were kind of salary sponsored anglers,
right?
And you probably, if there's anybody that's looked at a fly fishing magazine and that's 10, 12 years old, 90% of the covers were either from Barry or were of Kathy.
Right.
I mean, it was quite something. And, the Tibor catalogs, it's all them. And Sage catalogs in Frontier, they were traveling, they hosted trips. They're great anglers. And Kathy was, she passed away 2 years ago on a guided trip. She was just the real deal. A great angler, a great person. Very, missed by many. And on that note, there's a movie that just came out about Barry.
I didn't know that.
And Kathy, and it just released this week. And it's about an hour long, and it's worth it. So download it. It's on YouTube. About the Becks. That's very interesting.
No, I'll have to definitely download that. I met them at a couple of the shows, but it was very much standing in a group of 4 or 5 people. Never had a personal connection with either one of them.
Yeah.
But I watched Kathy's casting demonstrations, and I always watched, like, Barry had a number of educational videos he'd have back before YouTube was really a thing.
Yeah.
He had a video series, and I think he did it was almost like in the same ilk as like the Doug Swisher scientific angler stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
And, he talked about, he was doing a lot with nymphing and emergers and stuff. And anyhow, we could go on, but you had the opportunity to have them come. How did that opportunity come about? Did you know them ahead of time?
No, a little bit of that comes from Bill Klein, who was the manager at Patagonia's fishing. He kind of had me come and work a show in New Jersey. I knew him out west. He knew that I was here. He had me come down to New Jersey, and then he's like, "You should go fish with Bear." So they came up, and we did it. I'm gonna say 3 times. And they 3 different seasons. They came up. Oh, they did a Tibor catalog one time, and then something else, and then John Ford took them out tuna, and Kathy got a big tuna on a fly, and that's a heck of a story. And so it was great. It was probably 3 or 4 times I fished those guys.
Yeah.
And it was usually, 3 or 4 days at a time, and just wonderful people to have.
And so they were not only fishing, but they were trying to find the right backdrop to capture some professional images that they would sell.
Yeah. But it was really cool, because what I'll say is I don't like doing that. I don't want to be the guy on camera. I want to fish.
Right.
And I want to put people on fish. I don't like that other side of it. And Barry picked that up pretty quick, and he made it pretty painless. We just fished, and he would find, or he would say, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to grab a rod." And he grabs his camera with his rod. "I'm going to wander over there." And next thing you know, you got these distant shots of us, and that are just like amazing.
Yeah.
And he's just made it where you weren't sitting there driving past the same sun or, whatever it is to get these shots.
To capture a shot.
Yeah, wasting tide.
So what were you learning about the fishery? So we're talking Casco Bay.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So you find yourself in Casco Bay in early 2000s. You got a flat skiff. What did you start? I mean, those are migratory fish. I mean, we think of some of the fish in the Keys as being somewhat migratory, but these are seriously migratory fish. They're either not here or they're here.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So what did you learn? A lot.
What did it say that I learned? I learned by a rod went off my boat. And it was the day before. Yeah, we saw some birds working. We took off. My angler kind of set a rod off to the side on the gunnel. That we moved off, and rod was gone. And I kind of knew where we were, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna have to get out here on the next tide and dig around." So I go back out, and I'm like, my boat draft 8 inches. So I look at tide charts and about a foot in, I can climb up here and start looking around, and hopefully I can find it. If not, I'll try the next tide too. I really wanted that rod and reel back. And next thing I know, I see a little vein off to the side, and little stripers getting up in there, going onto the flat a lot earlier than I would have ever imagined. And it was not 4 a.m. It was, 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
I love it.
And it was on a harder, cleaner bottom, a good place to sight fish. Mental note, let's go look at this at earlier in the tide. And that's where I went. Now it's like, what did they want? What was, what were they up there to eat?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And what you realize is these fish, when they get into the skinny, they act really similar to what our passion is outside of New England.
Bonefish. Yeah.
And say in some cases permanent.
Yeah.
They have that mindset of you got to put a fly in their area of awareness without them knowing how it got there. And then that strip needs to be where it looks like it's something they found and it's getting away.
Yeah.
And when you figure out those angles, it works. And often that is not about a bait fish. That is a crustacean.
Right.
Or really small bait fish, not a big fly. There's little things that make these ingredients.
I can picture clam worms or bloodworms. I can picture shrimp pattern. I can picture small micro clousers. Right?
Yep.
You finished the list. What else was working back then?
I went to shrimp really early.
Yeah.
It was something I was naturally used to fishing.
Yeah.
Little bait fish, real thin profile fin fish. I didn't like sink lines anyhow. I liked floating lines.
Me too.
And I was used to longer leaders. So, it was kind of a natural progression for me. I wasn't going with a 350 grain and a clouser. It wasn't my rig.
No.
So I kind of had the setups. I had what I was looking for, just from fly box from Florida at the time.
Right.
But the green crab, they came in just huge numbers.
Was it a thing back then like it is now?
Yeah. I mean, that's been going on a little longer than you think. There's, guy, Steve Strock, who is with 12 weight. He was fishing a crab when I first met him 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And Dave Skoke and him came up and got on my boat, and the crabs and the little flounders. And then there was this older gentleman, Alan, that had this Buffy fly. What was Buffy is the big big ugly fly, the Buffy fly. And it was just this spun deer hair, crazy looking crab.
Oh, yeah.
And he was dragging it with these tiny little strips. And I'd see him down here in the marsh in different places, and he was catching big fish. And now it's like they're building fly lines for dragging crabs on the sand, Yeah. And there's a ton of different patterns. But there was a crew 25 years ago when I first got going, and I was pulling around on these flats and these walk wade guys that I would meet. That's how they were fishing.
Right.
And there was a few of them out there back then, for sure.
So when you were going in the middle of the day, bright sun, low tide turning and coming back in for the very first time, and fish were starting to show up. You said there were some little fish. Were you also starting to learn that those big monster stripers were active, or were they only active at night? Were you able to catch fish of any size during those midday quests for learning?
Yeah, there was. And there was areas that it was almost like clockwork. I'll just throw out a number, like 1.7 on the tide. There would be fish that would come off of a grass line and come down a sand that were 30-inch fish or bigger. And it was day after day on that tide.
Mm-hmm.
And it did not matter on the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Now, figuring out how to feed them was a challenge.
Yeah.
And sometimes it meant some of the more successful on that was getting out of the boat on the foot.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Coming around it, staking the boat off and getting out of the boat and waiting and taking your shots. These are outer island flats. These are out in Casco Bay. And nobody really fished them back then. Right. There was like nobody around. They didn't, they were now, you got everybody and their brother fishing over these things. It's a totally a little different game.
I noticed when I fly out of the jet port, I'm seeing there's flats on those outer islands that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
And that must be really cool.
It is cool. That's really cool. And if you look at some of these flats, the last maybe 10 years on a big negative low tide outside there, a lot of the eelgrass is dead now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there's an edge to where there is eelgrass still.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a bigger sight fishing area than you had, which is bad because we're losing that eelgrass. But it's kind of odd. Like we got more people pulling. We have less fish, but we're getting more terrain to kind of sight fish, even though we got all the oyster farms starting up in a lot of the old good areas. There's some new stuff forming too.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's I think it's a good time for us to take a quick break.
Sure.
And we'll come back, and I want to talk about how you started to have success with your guiding, not only in Maine, but you, like today, you just got back from a trip from Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
And you're getting ready to go back down to Florida. I want to talk about the genesis of a guy that is my exact age, that has turned into a world traveling guide and been very successful at it. So when we come back from the break, let's pick up on that.
All right. Sounds good.
In this Flyline flashback, we discuss the origin of the graphite fly rod. The transition from fiberglass to graphite in the early 1970s marked the most significant leap in fly fishing technology since the invention of the split cane rod. Before this era, anglers relied on heavy, slower action fiberglass or high maintenance bamboo. The breakthrough came from the aerospace industry, where high modulus carbon fibers were being developed for strength and weight reduction. It wasn't long before innovative rod builders realized these fibers could create a fishing tool that was significantly lighter, stiffer, and faster recovery than anything previously imagined. Fenwick is widely recognized as the pioneer that crossed the finish line first, introducing the world's first all-graphite rod, the HMG, High Modulus Graphite, in 1973. Led by visionaries Don Green and Jim Green, Fenwick leveraged new carbon fiber technology to produce a blank that could throw tighter loops and handle wind with far less physical effort. This launch sent shockwaves through the industry, effectively rendering fiberglass old tech overnight for performance-minded fly fishers. Shortly after, the mid-1970s saw a gold rush of craftsmanship. Scott Fly Rods pushed the envelope in 1974 by creating the first 9-foot 4-weight graphite rod, a configuration that remains a gold standard for technical trout fishing today. Meanwhile, legendary brands like Orvis and R.L. Winston began integrating the material into their lineups by 1975. The legacy of these first makers is still felt in every flick of a modern wrist. Don Green eventually left Fenwick to found Sage in 1980. A company that would spend the next several decades obsessing with perfecting graphite's potential. These early innovators didn't just change the material of the rod, they changed the physics of the cast, allowing the angler to fish longer distances with greater accuracy and less fatigue, forever defining the fast-action style that dominates the sport today. And now, back to the second half of this episode.
Welcome back from the break, Eric. Before we talk about your career, as I toss to leading into our break, you talked about your daughters earlier. Tell me about your daughters.
Yeah, I have identical twin daughters, just turned 21. And one of them is at Flagler College in St. Augustine, Florida. She loves the surf. She just took this fall off from college and was working in El Salvador and surfing at a surf hostel. And my other daughter this fall was in Brazil working at I think it's called Workaway, and living and hanging out in Brazil. And she hangs her hat on the North Shore of Oahu in Hawaii.
I know it well.
Yeah. So she works in Haleiwa.
Yeah, I know Haleiwa.
Yeah. And she lives over by, as you go around the island by, I guess something Kukoku or something of that nature.
Yeah.
And lives over there. She just bought her first little Honda CRV this last week when I was there.
Yeah.
So she got wheels, so watch out.
Yeah.
And she now can get her board around.
Nice.
Without having to hitchhike.
Yeah. I had a buddy that lived out in that part of Hawaii for years on end, and I go out and hang out with him in spring when I'd get back from traveling down to South America. And Maine was just mud season, and you just felt like putting a gun in your mouth and pulling a trigger. And Hawaii was such a great place to be.
Yeah.
And he was up at Kailua Beach, which is just above Waimanalo.
Yeah.
Which is where Magnum PI was shot.
Yeah.
Well, we would go up to the North Shore to watch the surfers.
Yeah.
I'm not a surfer myself. I'm interested in windsurfing, but I would never dare to windsurf out there. That's a cat of a completely different. You're talking a whole different caliber of windsurfing when you're talking about that. But what is she doing there?
She works in. I think she makes like acai bowls and stuff of that nature.
Nice.
Yeah. She's just 21,
Yeah.
Figuring it out.
Yeah.
Trying to scratch enough money for her next adventure. This girl went over there to get a residency to go to college at University of Hawaii and turned around, and she has done a workaway in South Casco at J Bay down there, the surf spot, Portugal, Brazil, and Kauai, Maui, and now she's just working and living in Oahu.
Yeah.
So she's a little wandered, has to get it out of her.
Yeah. Sounds like her dad.
Yep. They always come back to it, and it's like, Dad, you had a van and you went to a bunch of Grateful Dead shows and you fished out of your van and this and that. So they get me. They always call it if I call them out on anything.
Yeah, but Eric, we're living the life.
Yeah.
We're living a life that we don't really have to answer to the man. You answer to yourself.
Yeah.
We're not getting wildly rich.
No, God, no.
But at the same time, I look forward to every season. The changing of the seasons, even I know I've been talking with one of my buddies, they're like, we're going to do a run down the upper Andro. We might catch a trout. We might catch two if we're lucky.
Yeah.
But I still look forward to just doing that because I just like being on the water.
Yeah.
And all the things to come. Anyhow, I just think guiding is a romantic life, and it sounds like you've lived it that way.
I do. I literally I have a hard time going to bed when the tides are going to be right in the next morning. I can't sleep. I'm excited.
Yeah,
and I'm tickled that that's my mindset. This many days on the water,
I can see you in the driveway with a headlamp on.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Rigging rods and
yeah.
Make sure the boat's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gets into you a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's there is a grind on the body, that you're pulling a boat or you're pouring a boat. You're in the sun and you can't take a day off.
No.
And there is that side to it, but there is the other side is you get to push away from a dock and it's your day and your English day.
We were talking earlier before the break about Barry and Kathy Beck, and I know that you have a relationship with the Harrisseekit in Freeport.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
you did.
Yeah, well, I still do, but yeah.
Yeah, so I was flying back from Labrador 2 years ago, and I met a guy that lives up around Whitefield now that used to own the Harrisseekit. You must know who I'm talking about. He's Chip?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I met him up in Labrador at an airport. We were getting off from our bush planes and getting onto regular commercial flights to come home. And he told me, about you. and he had just recently sold the place, and he's now up on the Kennebec.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah. So how did you get in with the Harris-Seeker? Now, for the audience, Harris-Seeker is the place to stay in Freeport.
Yeah.
You know, there are places to stay, but this would be the place to stay.
Yeah.
If your daughter was going to get married and money was not an object, the Harris-Seeker wouldn't be a bad place to have the wedding.
No, not at all.
Right.
My first house I bought here in Maine was right behind it, for one thing. And I just walked up there one day and it's like, hey, I want my English to stay here. So,
Yeah.
And he got kind of used to me coming in with my boat and picking people up. And that's where Lefty would stay.
Yeah.
And the Beck stayed there.
Mhm.
And and he knew who they were.
Yeah.
And he was a fisherman, and Dave Petchy, he was really close with Dave Petchy too.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of Lefty Cray, did you ever take King Montgomery out?
That photo right there was taken by King.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see it now. So we're looking for the audience. We're looking at a photo of Eric on his flat skiff with Lefty sitting next to him. They're chatting. And Lefty would spend as much time sitting and talking to you as he would fishing.
Yeah.
He was a real educator, and I'm sure you learned a lot from him. I know I did.
Oh my, it was unbelievable.
But King took that photograph.
Yeah, that's King.
Yeah.
King gave me that. Yeah.
And King was a guy from Virginia, a writer, and ultimately retired in Maine with his wife, Elizabeth, who I want to say was a judge.
I believe so.
Or a lawyer, one or the other. She's still with us. But King passed recently. But the reason I ask is because those two guys would travel together.
I know. They were funny.
And they had their big cameras in their Pelican boxes. And it was fun.
Yeah.
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 So back to the Harris-Seeker, it started to flourish. But maybe you moved your focus back to Casco Bay, or I should say this aspect of Casco Bay, which is to say down around Portland area. Were you chasing fish, or what? Living in Freeport then? What happened? I'm wondering if it's about fishing or if it's about lifestyle.
It is about fishing.
Yeah.
And it was also, my girlfriend lives not too far from Higgins Beach.
Yeah.
But look at where I'm at by a map. Eastern Prom, 8 minutes. If I go over the bridge,
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the marsh in 8 minutes.
Yep.
I got Bud Light, and it takes me 22 minutes to go to Yarmouth by using this exit here.
Yeah.
So I can get to the water in the Saco. I can get to what's working really quick from there. And I think that right now is becoming more and more important as where we're at with the fishery.
Right.
I have to have diversity in my guiding to what launches I'm going to use, more so than I've ever had to have up here.
Right.
So,
and I mean, I always think of the fishing as I learned, striper fishing when I was first learning about it was really just Popham, Kennebec River, the mouth of the Kennebec River coming into Popham, Meeting Bay. I was kind of more on the lower Kennebec, just learning about it. Yeah. I've never been a striper guide, Eric. It's just something I've only done for fun as a side gig with friends.
Yeah.
And still do it that way. But I have some questions for you.
Oh boy.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, how do you work out the money math part of it? Right now, I have about an $11,000 drift boat that I own outright. I've owned it outright for 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I have another boat that but you have an expensive boat, and you got to put gas in it. And you're fishing for a fish that can be finicky and can also be hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the business model of your guide service, how it works, because it obviously does work.
Yeah. The least amount of trips I've done in 20 years is 115 in Maine. I don't think you can do much less than that and make it. You're going to have another income. And being a single guy, running this house in a boat, truck, and everything, I have to work 7 days a week if I have the trips.
Yeah.
I am really fortunate that right now I have over 90 days on the books. Maybe I shouldn't talk about days, but
no, I think you should talk about days.
But you have to.
Are there 90 days of striper fishing in Maine?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It literally, believe it or not, and it is. You have to work a little bit to pull this off. And
tell me this.
Yeah, so you can pick up fish down here, the Saco in this area, in the marsh. Usually by the 20th of May, pretty much you can say, hey, let's go. We have like a 4-hour window. It's not a full day thing.
Mhm.
Not the fish aren't pushed through. You can get some shots. That goes right until, let's say, October 20th.
Right on.
Well, you look at that, it's 5 months.
That's right.
And that's 5 months of 30 days a month. That's
Mhm.
150-day window. The window's there. It's, do you have the customers that want it,
Yeah.
and want, when the fishing gets tough, do they want to try something different? There's days where I'm fishing 2 hours out of Yarmouth, and we're like, okay, boom, meet me at Pine Point. We're jumping in there. We're going to fish the rest of this tide, a different part of the tide, for a few hours there. I had to do more double launches the last couple of years to keep these repeats booking the following year.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you might fish a flat out of the Royal River in the morning and then pick up and shoot down to Pine Point, like you just said, and spend the rest of the day. I hadn't even thought about that.
I do. I'm happy to do it, and I do it often.
I bet.
And the other angle to that is I may say, hey, we're going to run out of Mirror Point, and when we're going to take a short trip, and then we're going to jump on, we're going to boat in him, we're going to go look for carp.
Cool.
In Merrimack Bay.
Yeah.
And there's 2 launches there.
Yeah.
I charge for that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're getting a long day. We're having fun doing it.
So what does a day of being guided by Eric Wallace look like? Do you have nothing's ever cookie cutter, Eric, but I think you understand my question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's matched to the tide.
Yeah.
Yep. 100% matched to tide. If the tide works, that it's a sunrise still trickling out, we're going to be right there before sunrise, maybe 45 minutes before it comes out. If it's that we swamped out high tide at sunrise, I'm not going out and banging the shoreline for a few minutes and waiting for a tide to turn and drag out 3-4 feet of water. We're going to go wait and do a different style tide. Part of that is just my customers have been, for a huge percentage of them, are multiple day repeats a season.
Yeah.
And I know what they want and what part of this they like.
Yeah.
And I try to match that up.
Yeah.
That's where the boat's always on the trailer.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it from being in a slip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does the angler from Boston get out of coming up to Maine that's different than maybe going to Montauk or going out to Martha's Vineyard or going somewhere else? So there are other striper destinations in New England, but I mean, you just talked about variety. I think that's what the answer is you got a lot of variety here.
We got, not only do we have variety of terrain, we have the water temperature.
Cold.
And we have the food. And on that, we have too much. They're spoiled up here.
Yeah.
They're like, they're basically on summer vacation up here. It's like, they got shrimp, crab, baby lobster, all the fin fish, eels, and worms. And they got plenty of food, and they got the tides, and they got the currents, they got the temperature, and they got places to hide.
When I was I lived in Harpswell for a while, and I did some of the flats fishing there for, basically fishing a green crab. And when the water would get warm, because it does, I would notice the only place I would find decent flats sight fishing was where I had a clam flat in proximity to deeper blue water.
Yep.
You wouldn't just find them way the hell up back by the Navy base in some back cove. You need to be somewhere where there was 100 feet of water within a half mile.
Yep.
Or 50 feet of water.
Yeah, cool water exchange.
It seems like they need that.
And it takes learning where that flat that you want to be on, how much of that incomer has to come in to bring in that water temperature that you want.
Yeah.
Because they'll pause on it.
Yeah.
But then sometimes, if the wind's pushing the right way, that water is going to come in cool right off the bat and do its thing. It's just those little nuances that you get to know where you want to be each day, wind and tide.
What do you love about Maine striper guiding?
I think it's right now, I'd say I like a lot of people are really frustrated with striper and the work. But for me, I like the challenge. And it is. It's a little different of a game right now. It's not a numbers game. There is some opportunity for big fish in shallow waters, but we're missing some slot. We're missing some sizes out there, some year classes, and it can be, the windows can be pretty tight. And understanding your windows and getting your rhythm, I like the challenge of it.
When you say windows, I'm thinking catching windows or
Yeah, just the windows of where the fish are going to be, where you think you can get them to feed.
right.
You know, there's days where you can go and show people an aquarium of fish, but are you going to feed those fish?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
Good chance you're not.
You made a comparison earlier about our mutual passion for walking for bonefish. You know, Wade walking for bonefish, sight fishing. Have you learned something by tarpon guiding that you think helped you in striper, or the other way around?
Yeah, the same. I think on the tarpon is striped bass like tarpon. Their eyes are up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And where they like to look in a water column isn't always down. And leveling things out a little bit and not having something that's jiggy in the shallows as much, and having it hover above can sometimes be just, playing that game a little bit like you would a tarpon.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So
No, you don't always have to get it on the bottom to catch these fish.
no, and I drank the Kool-Aid back years ago with a teeny 250 or 300 with a heavy weighted fly. And I will tell you now, Eric, when I fish in Maine the last 3 summers, I use a floating line
Yeah.
and a weighted fly like I would for bonefish.
Yeah.
And every fish I catch is in water that's shallower than my waist.
Exactly.
And you can go out and find a big ledge somewhere and throw the line that I talked about before and have a big clouser or deceiver on. You will catch fish, but
Sure.
to me, I just think it's evolved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of this place. That's why come here versus drive to the Cape.
Yeah.
If you're in Boston, well, A, you don't have to go over the Brewer Bridge.
Yeah.
So you can get here quicker. But I think once you come to mid-June, we have a really cool fishery.
Yeah.
And we have fish that are willing to eat just out of temperature, what food sources they have.
Mm-hmm. Are you affiliated with a fly shop in the area now?
I try to support all of them as much as I can.
Yeah.
I'm affiliated with a rod and reel company.
Yeah.
And so, I try to feed different sales.
Yeah.
Because all these shops will try to send me trips and I would like to try to send them business as well.
Right. Right. So you originally, I remember seeing you were on Scott's pro staff at one point, or were you just endorsing Scott rods at that point? I can't remember.
I was on Scott's pro staff for a long, long time.
Right. Right. And what changed?
I went from Scott, one-piece Hardy fly rods. That's what changed it.
Oh yeah.
Those are all one-piece fly rods up above the sink.
Yeah. No. So for the unknowing listener, what's the benefit of a one-piece rod?
You know what the ugly stick is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's 11 weights up there that have been bent around the hull of a boat so many times on tarpon, and they're still, you can cast them right now.
So a ferrule is a breaking point, is what's being said.
Yeah, ferrule's a breaking point. And this really uniquely, what I think is the power, lifting power, and the fish fighting power of the 11 weight and a one piece, but it feels like you're casting a 9.
Mm-hmm.
So people are a little bit more comfortable casting it.
Yeah.
And, you take that and you take it into what I'm using most of the time now is a shorter rod, an 8'8" rod from Thomas & Thomas. I can't break those either. And it has that same feeling. It's like easy to cast.
Okay.
And it doesn't feel that, they do their rods in this case in grain weights, so 350, 400, and the 400 being 11 weight rod. It's amazing. Like picking that rod up, it can feel like a 7 weight of 10 years ago.
Right. So just, I I want to explain what Eric just said because I think it's important. We have a lot of people that are listening to the podcast that are learning, and we're always learning. You're learning, right, Eric? I am too. So when Eric says a 400 grain fly line, what he means is there's a standard in the industry that if you were to cut the first 30 feet of fly line off the head of a fly line and take that last foot of that fly line and measure it, that line would measure 400 grains of weight for 1 foot of its length. And so a floating line, a sinking line, an intermediate line, all could weigh 400, although they have different properties. It has more to do with what does the rod feel in terms of the weight resistance and inertia buildup when casting it. So an 11 weight rod is a damn hard rod to cast if you've never cast one before. And there must be a learning curve when you're working with people that are trying to catch a tarpon for the first time.
No, there is, yeah.
You can't just...
And that's where these rods, made it a little bit easier right now. And when you put the lines matched up right, and with the clear tips, you can use a little bit shorter leader and the wind. And so I'd say tarpon fishing right now, as far as the cast goes, it's a little bit easier to teach people. You get them out there and get some shots.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be afraid of it. Do you need to have a double haul and go tarpon fishing? You want to, but you don't have to. You can make these things work with a single haul type of cast. Now, it wouldn't be my first time fly fishing and say, I'm going to go on a 20-mile-an-hour wind day in the lower Florida Keys and try to catch a tarpon.
Not on your first day of fly fishing.
No, absolutely not.
No, but it is also, it's really a bucket list fish for a lot of people.
Certainly is.
And
should be.
It should be. I love watching the videos. I've never caught a tarpon, Eric.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Yeah, I would love to. I think it's really, for a long time, it was a rich man's game, and it was highly competitive.
Yeah.
I remember the guys, what's the bridge that they all stake out at down, is it around Big Pine Key?
No, it'd be a Honda. Bridge.
Yes. Yeah. It just was really ugly to me to see the boats staked out there at nighttime. And it wasn't anything that I was interested. That's not my kind of catching and fishing experience.
Right. Well, why they're there, that pass is where the worm.
Right.
It's one of the big worm areas. Those big worm beds right there. That time of year, around the moon cycles, the bigger moons, the big new moon, due to the Palolo worm.
What's a Palolo worm?
So what it is it's a tiny little worm that comes out of the coral, and it needs a big outgoing tide, and it swims straight to sea.
Cool.
And so the fish get really keyed in on this thing. They think there's different theories, and they think it may be an aphrodisiac to tarpon, because it's amazing how these fish will come in just big schools, and they get silly on a 1-inch skinny little, looks like about the size of a matchstick, swimming around on the surface, and you have 100-pound fish just going nuts over these things. And it's almost like you don't even want to fish, you just want to watch. It is spectacular things to witness.
So is the fly an exact match of that?
The fly is small. It's almost basically, a lot of us use a leather shoelace.
Yeah.
And it has that brownish color to it.
Yeah.
Brownish red color. And then you kind of stiffen it up with a stiffer piece of mono off the back, and then a greenish head.
Yeah.
But it's the strip. A strip has to be a certain speed. You miss one little twitch in that strip.
And is it a double-handed retrieve?
Some like to double, some just have a really fast single-handed strip.
So this worm moves real quick.
Oh yeah, it's a fast little swimmer, and it looks stiff in the water. It almost disappoints.
Like a needlefish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of cruise along, and these fish get keyed into it. With that said, next week we will be fishing a worm pattern, and we're a month away from, if I'm fishing on the ocean side next week on any of the tides that I have an outgoing, I will be fishing a worm fly.
Yeah. And
just because the fish are start to think about it
right
as we get into the springtime.
Yeah. Eric, as I mentioned before, I admire the success that you've garnered over the years. Is there something special you do with your clients that keeps the retention alive between you and them? I know clients turn into friends over time, but is there more to it than that? Is there an industry secret that you've been able to figure out that works for you and keeps them coming back year after year?
I think the biggest thing is you got to be honest with them.
Right.
And, don't be afraid to be the last boat in. In the evening, don't be afraid to be the first boat out. And I think one of it's probably somebody really said, what is it? It may be, doing 2 launches a day. Whatever it is, I'd want them to always feel like I'm trying really hard for them to have a successful day.
Yeah.
And I also will say that there's times when it's just the conditions aren't happening.
Yeah.
And if that trip is short and I'm shortening the price, I want it to be fair.
Yeah.
I don't, that's really important to me.
Yeah.
That it's fair.
Yes. I remember going out with a guide years ago. It was Saltwater guide, Casco Bay. It was not you. And we got out I think we met at the boat launch at 3 a.m. We were out there at about 4:30, actually starting to fish, and you could just barely see the fish. You could see them, but just barely. And the lightning and the thunder just came, and it was dangerous to be out there.
Time to get out.
And we just folded. We're done.
Yeah.
And no money changed hands. It was really amicable. It was the right way to do it.
I'd have to do it.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. But modern day, like I have my radar on my iPhone.
Mhm.
I can see weather coming and going.
Yeah.
Right. So that's really helpful.
Oh yeah, no. It's like listen, if you know what's going to happen, try to get them before they even leave the house. You can always fish in the afternoon.
Meaning your client.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll text them at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock after dinner the night before and say, listen, looks like we might have a little bouncy weather coming through in the morning. What time am I okay to text you?
Yeah.
I don't want to wake your wife up,
Right.
So, maybe something like, hey, pause. Don't leave the house because they're going to have to drive 20 minutes or however far they have to go.
Yeah.
We got a band coming through and we're going to have, say, a Sparky. I don't want to be out there.
No. I've noticed a big influx of, I have a number of really good clients. Of course, I'm guiding freshwater in the summer, but I have a pretty good charge of clients that are from kind of this, think Scarborough, Kennebunk, York, Harpswell. They're basically people that have moved to Maine that stay here all summer.
Yeah.
Do you have a client basis like that as well?
I do. I have quite a few guys that have places here now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't always that way. They might come to Maine to fish, but now they've come to actually spend the summer here and they like to fish and they don't want to have to figure out the calculus of what it takes to go get.
No. I have two guys that each of them are about 20 to 25 days of my calendar.
Oh.
So there's 40 something days.
Yeah.
They've both bought places in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
One on Eastern Prom, one up by Harpswell.
Yeah.
And that type of thing. God love them.
Yeah.
And you'd be foolish to try to push something on them.
No.
Bad weather, bad winds, bad fishing. You'd be foolish. It's just don't do that.
No, and
they're the people that want to support what you're doing too.
Yeah.
But it's like, listen, it's not worth our time right now.
Do they come alone? Do they bring different friends on different trips? I know it may vary between them, but I noticed a trend of one guy bringing multiple people in the course of a season, for me at least, or they just come dead alone.
Yeah, I have one guy that's pretty much dead alone, and then he'll host somebody a couple times,
Yeah.
But for the most part, they're fishing. I fish a lot of seagull.
That's awesome.
Seagulls.
They must love that.
And that's on the flat skiff. It's great, but there's one person can cast that time. And, so it works really good when it's just one person on the boat.
Boat's lighter.
Yeah, boat's lighter. It's quieter.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing right now.
Yeah. It's quieter.
Yeah.
I want to talk about poling, Eric, because it's something that most people in this part of the country just don't know anything about. Pulling a boat is a lot like rowing a drift boat in that it's very counterintuitive as to which way you push and how it works. And is poling in Florida different than poling here in terms of the softness of the bottom? Or tell me about the differences between
I
them.
think, pulling here, you can pull a little bit slower. And the bottom is softer here in many cases, unless you're on the sand flats, then that bottom feels a lot more like Florida. Florida, you're often, believe it or not, where you're fishing in the backcountry, that current's pretty hard, and you're pulling often into it. And you're always trying to keep the sun behind you, so there's angles that you always have to kind of manipulate and play, and darkness down there doesn't work. You have to get that sun behind you. I would say the biggest difference would be the sound coming off the bottom. I have a push pull over there that's rubber, and the end that's rubber that somebody just sent me that's really quiet.
I bet.
And then I have one up there that I made out of birch. It's wood. I like that one on the sand. And then there's the plastic, and the plastic tastes not as loud, so it's finding those are again back to the quiet boat,
right?
And probably the biggest benefit, people ask me, why do you pull? You could just use trolling motor. Well, try slowing down a boat in an instant with the trolling motor quietly underwater.
Yeah.
A push pull stops a boat quicker, and you can make adjustment quicker.
You can change and you can also, you can't really run a trolling motor in 8 to 10 inches of water.
No, you can't. And momentum on a boat pushes out pressure wake. And these fish are pretty sensitive to it. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm we've nerded out a little bit on this. I'm getting really into how quiet I can get a boat, to the point where last year we started fishing with headsets.
Oh, so you wouldn't have to talk loud.
I could whisper.
Yeah.
I could whisper.
That's a good idea.
And because I was watching fish, I'd call out a fish. It was 11 o'clock, 60 feet, moving left. And that fish is gone. And I'm like, they're not even giving us a chance for a shot. And I tried this headset thing. And all of a sudden I'm whispering into the thing, and the guy's hearing it perfectly. And he's just making the movement without my voice.
That's so cool.
And
how did you figure that out?
I had this older guy. He has a place up in Canada that he's up there on the big striper flat up there. The original.
We haven't started talking about that yet.
Yeah. But he came down here a couple years back, or 2 years ago, and then he came back, and he had a COVID shot, and he lost his hearing. And we tried a few things. He was fishing with another guide, and then he had a couple days booked with me. And we tried a couple little things with an Apple Watch. I was trying to just figure out how to give him some shots. And we ended up getting along really well. And he booked 10 days the next year, and he's 20 days for next year. And he kind of inspired me to get something quieter, because I was having to talk really loud to him.
Yeah.
And like, this guy is 80 years old at this point. He's healthy as a horse as far as active on the boat, and bust out line and take the shot. It's got good eyes. You just can't hear. And I'm up there screaming, 11 o'clock, 60 feet. And then it was like, well, we tried this, and this worked.
What is it?
It's called Sientka, I think it is. And I went everywhere looking for this thing. And I started thinking, okay, motorcycles talk to each other.
Yeah. I used to use that technology on my motorcycle. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I started researching that. And then I ended up I was on Craigslist, and I saw this thing where this older couple that had an RV would put this headset on so that he could park his RV.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. I found one used, brand new in the box, and it's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had them out today charging them.
Yeah. I don't need it in a drift boat, but I definitely can think of scenarios where I've had people who are hard of hearing.
Yeah.
But then, do you ever worry about them dropping it in the water?
And they happen. I mean, it's on their on their head.
Yeah. So it's
With a buff on, I think it'll protect it,
oh yeah.
type of thing. But it was funny because I just recently saw a video that was sent to me of a Bohemian guy using them, and they caught a permit on this thing.
Yeah.
And he was talking about it. And it's like, okay, I'm not the only nerd here, but it is amazing. You could just whisper.
Yeah.
And you could be on the polling platform and whisper. And I think that might be something, everybody's putting speakers on their boats and this and that. And I'm trying to get quieter.
Yeah.
And that was just one of them. One of the things.
We talked about your daughters and how they were really living a very similar life to what you were doing when you were their age. And now we're, Eric, we're 56. We're not done yet, right? We got another 10 or 15 years left on us anyhow.
Yeah.
What do you want to see those last 10 or 15 years look like for you?
The perfect world, more bone fishing. But I want to stay healthy. I want to stay climbing on that platform.
Yeah.
That's going to take its own work, to stay healthy that way.
Yeah.
I want to continue to learn.
Yeah.
It's fun. I kind of feel really good right now. And, I talk about some of these older clients, but I have a really good set of clients our age.
Yeah.
That are really into it.
Yeah.
And they're into their striper thing right now, and they like it on the skinny, but they want permit. So they're going to morph into fishing with me in the Keys a little bit.
Oh yeah. I hadn't thought about you've got people that can hit you at multi-seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't even thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got basically some regen throughout the calendar. You may have a guy fishing for tarpon 2 weeks from now that maybe striper fishing with you 6 weeks from now.
The guy that I'm flying down to on Monday, I'm fishing with him for 18 days.
Whoa.
And he's back here in June for 5 days.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys have become tight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He's 70 years old and he's from New Jersey originally. And that's his artwork he sent me.
Which Eric's pointing at some permit, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Two permits swimming together. It's basically, I'll take a photo of it and put it on the website and your blog, Eric. That's awesome stuff.
Yeah.
So he's an artist.
He's an artist. Yeah. He does. You see his stuff all over in the Keys, and I've seen it all over. And now that I know what he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's pretty neat. He's got some neat flamingos and stuff. But, those are the relationships, and my girlfriend, Holly Doors, he's like, I'll fly her down for 10 days. So, she comes in.
Yeah.
And, so, things like that. It's a pretty neat experience.
Where do you stay when you're down there?
So he puts me in.
He puts you up?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Picks me up and he has a brand new Maverick flask.
Oh, you're going to use his boat?
Yeah.
You're not going to, I was going to ask you, are you going to drag your boat down? Yeah.
Thank goodness I'm not this year, because the gas prices would eat this thing right up.
I know. It is crazy right now.
Yeah.
So you just said Maverick. What do you have for a boat up here?
A Maverick.
You do?
Yep.
Who do you think of them?
They're great boats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a lot of different boats that have come and gone, and you hear people talk about Hell's Bay and, the old boats back in the day. Dolphins were hot way back in the day.
That's a great boat.
They were
a great boat.
They were great boats, right? But you've stuck with a Maverick. You had a different boat when I first met you. You had a bigger boat.
An action craft.
You had an action craft.
I had a beaver tail.
Yep.
I had a Hell's Bay. I don't like sponsons. The where they're cutouts in the back. I don't like the way they pivot.
Mm-hmm.
So the Maverick, like almost everything about the Maverick, there's not one perfect boat. The boat that I really, really want is a Chitim.
Mm.
And I was in line to get a Chitim, and then COVID happened. And the Maverick I bought was the demo boat that was used to actually won the Gold Cup. It was used by Stephen Tahara.
Mm-hmm.
In the Gold Cup. So the boat's fishy.
Yeah.
But, I kind of bought it 5 days later, the boat was worth $20,000 more. Put it that way, just because of what COVID did to boating.
Right.
And so I'm kind of like, I'm going to stick to this thing for a little while.
Mm.
And,
do you have a relationship with a motor company?
I use Yamaha.
You use Yamaha,
Yeah.
4 strokes, yeah.
Yeah.
And what's a good size for a boat that a 17-foot skiff, I'm guessing?
Yeah, 17 HPX.
So 90, 75?
70 or 90.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, some people, if you put the 90, put the 115 on.
Yeah.
But this F70 is the kind of the go-to motor.
Right.
Yeah. I had it on the Beaver Tail. I've had it on, oh God, I've had it on 3 different boats. The F70, great motor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in a little bit of a different world where I use jet boats.
Yeah.
And these guys are putting like 150 or even 200 horsepower jets on a 16 or 17 foot because it's about speed for them.
Yeah.
And it's like, as long as I'm on plane, I don't care if I'm going 15 miles an hour or if I'm going 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I prefer to be going 15 miles an hour.
Yeah, if you hit something.
Exactly. So, and then of course, once you take it off plane and you settle down in the water, the heavy motor's a liability.
Swatty, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's got to be that way for polling.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, look, F70 weighs 238 pounds.
Yeah, that's light.
And a 90 weighs 406.
Yeah. And I have a 60, which is 275, but it's mercury.
Yeah.
And
you have that as a jet?
As a jet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's actually a 60-40.
Yeah.
That's what we run. A couple of different guys, just 2-3 of us that run the same exact.
What boat?
What's that?
What boat is that?
It's an all-weld.
All-weld, yeah.
Actually, that's a new boat for me this year. I've been running an old school tracker.
Yeah.
But I was just trying to figure it out, Eric, for years, and I didn't want to put a lot of money into anything that I might bash up on a rock on the Androscoggin.
Yeah.
And I've, knock on wood, never hit a rock.
Yeah.
And never hurt myself or anybody, because there's a learning curve when you're going in a river with rocks and with a jet and going up over gravel bars. But the point is that lighter for poling or jetting and rowing is everything. My drift boat, I remember my first drift boat back in the 80s. They wanted to stay on the phone with me and talk about storage and big seat boxes and all this stuff. My boat is a pedestal seat in the front, pedestal seat in the back, enough food in a small Yeti for lunch, and then my fish pond bag that I got from Crosby Bean.
Yeah.
Our fish pond rep.
Yeah.
And your good friend. Crosby's the guy that told me that you needed to be on the podcast. And I'm going to tell you something that you don't know he said.
Uh-oh.
He said, I've fished with all of the guides in Maine, Casco Bay, and Eric is the one guy that maybe not everybody loves, but he's the one that's not a bullshit artist.
Yeah.
He likes you.
Yeah.
And he admires you. Yeah. Do you remember meeting Crosby?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I met Crosby years ago in Colorado.
Yeah. Well, of course, he worked out there.
Yeah. He used to own Breckenridge Outfitters, him and Ian Davis. And Ian Davis went on to start Yellow Dog, the travel company, with Jim Klug. And that was Crosby's partner. And
I didn't know Crosby was involved at the entry level with that.
Yeah. Well, no, Crosby was not involved. He was one of the owners. He's co-owners of Breckenridge Outfitters.
Got it.
And then Ian went on and did Yellow Dog with Jim Klug. And it's funny, I just booked a 6-day thing with Yellow Dog this week.
To do what?
Oh, we got 3 boats for 6 days.
Coming here. Yeah. So you work as a Yellow Dog guy.
Yeah, I mean, they send me things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I send them things.
Yep.
And I've known Jim from when I was working in fly shops in Colorado. He was, we all worked out of Frying Pan Anglers in Taylor Creek at the same time.
Mm.
And he went on and became the rep for Spirit River and Stott and all these things. And then he went on to do the fly lines. He went on bigger and then went and did Yellow Dog.
Got it.
And I kept guiding.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Now, just to clarify who Crosby Bean is, he's basically a tackle rep and has been for most of his professional career, most of his career as of late, I should say, the last 15 years, maybe.
Yeah. You asked about Scott, and, to be honest, that Crosby was one of the reasons I he's the one who said, I want to put Hardy on your boat. After we came up, we fished here years ago, and he was with Hardy at the time. And I kind of waited out and I tried the rods, and I was like, yeah, these are great.
Hardy, I don't know if they are, but they used to be kind of like kissing cousins with Gray.
Yeah.
Gray was kind of the price point line of the Hardy fly rods. But I've never used a Hardy fly rod I didn't like.
I know.
They're really sweet.
Yeah, they're nice.
And then now you're Thomas & Thomas.
Yeah, I do Thomas & Thomas, yeah.
Which is a New England brand.
It's New England brand, and those guys are awesome. And they're great. The fun to work with is prototypes come through my boat, and just overall, I really like their direction. I like the designers, the materials, the finished product, second to none.
Well, I bet you can pick up the phone and talk to someone who's meaningful there. And you can't do that with fly rod companies anymore.
No.
Yeah. I mean, they're in what part? They're like in Western Mass?
Greenville, Mass. Yeah.
Yeah, Greenville, Mass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eric, I think you and I could go on forever.
Yeah.
I appreciate it so much. I'm really glad you were willing to come on. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think it was great. It was fun. And, thanks for giving me a call. And there was sometimes let's get out to fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you invite me, I will come, and it goes the other direction. Before we close, I want to ask you a question that I didn't ask you before. You talked about smallie fishing in Michigan.
Yeah.
I've heard great things about it. Have you done a lot of smallie fishing on the rivers like the Andro and the Kennebec or Penobscot? Have you done much of it?
I've done some on the Saco.
Okay, yeah, different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And other than that, I can tell you one of the last days I was smallie fishing it was blowing 30 in the bay, and I went to Panther Pond with my flat stiff with Lefty Cray.
Yeah.
And he was banging the smallies off of some beds around some stumps over one little end there.
Yeah.
And that was the other last time I've been smallie fishing.
But
I would love to go do it.
Yeah, well, I'd love to have you. I mean, so you don't really have a point of reference as to if it's better in Michigan or better here. You'd need to do it here in order to really know.
Well, I would tell you, the thing with the Great Lakes is the water's crystal clear.
I know.
And it's truly sight fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For smallies.
It's for smallies.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Now, I've heard great things. We won't drag the conversation on because I know we could, but thank you so much for having the privilege of your time and allowing me into your guide. This is one of the coolest little apartments I've been in, and it's so close to the heartbeat of striper fishing in Casco Bay. Eric, thank you for joining the podcast.
Well, thank you. Great evening.
That brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you for joining us for this intimate discussion, and thank you for listening to Flyline Podcast. We're proud to be sponsored by Geiger, the world's largest family-owned promotional products distributor based in Lewiston, Maine. Their support helps us share the rich history of Maine's fishing community through the stories that will be cherished for generations. A new Flyline Podcast episode is released every 2 weeks on Tuesdays, so be sure to come back to meet our next famous guest. Until then, this is Michael Jones, and we invite you to visit the blog section of our website to enjoy photos and contributions from our guests and experience all of the episodes at flylinepodcast.com.